Welcome back, everyone. I have started up a brand new save. Absolutely nothing done except for grabbing the first two contracts. So we're right into it, and I'm back after a very, very, very long time. And with amazing picture quality with my new and improved recording setup. We're going right into the VAB to build your basic starter rocket, which is just your flea rocket booster attached to your command pod. And we're going to right off the bat want to try and train up Jebediah so that he can get some more abilities than just as simple SAS. And that is our first rocket. However, I'm going to make the fin setup uneven so that we land in another biome, like the ocean. We're more likely to land in the ocean in the future and collect science. So maybe we can kind of like rig it so that it'll land near the space center, and we can collect more science from the space center. So right off the bat, I want my science. I need a science for the launch pad, a science for in the air. Oh, I should probably be doing this on radio. A science for on the launch pad, a science for in the air, and some science for on the ground. So there is our first starter ship. And I just have to, as Scott Manley would say, check yo staging. Because right now, the parachute is rigged to fire just as the solid rocket booster is. And that would be very tragic because of all of the Delta V losses due to that parachute pulling us back. So here we are launching our rocket. And we're hopefully going to get the first basic technology, like liquid fuel and an actually efficient engine. And 3. Oh wait, I forgot. I want to do all of the science on the ground that I can right now. So I just want to collect every bit of science off the launch pad that I can. Every point counts. And we don't have the surface sample yet, so let's just do the EVA report. And we can collect data from that. Remove. Store experiments 2. Take data 3, and then store experiments 3. Now let's board, and it is time to fire up the rocket. Stability assist on, and we should start tipping ever so slightly. I'm kind of forcing us into a bit of a tip as well, as to try and land us when we're near the KSC, and in the same biome as it. And now, just while we're in the upper atmosphere, we need to quickly do this. We probably want to do it at the highest atmosphere to maximize, or part of the without our apoapsis to maximize the science. There, got it. And a quick crew report. Now we can activate that parachute and start descending. Physical time warp on instantly, and here we go. Oh no, we're nosediving already. Gotta turn off the physical time warp and increase the altitude to about now, so that this thing doesn't plummet into the ground and destroy our precious sciences and Jebediahs. So let's let it float safely down to the surface of Kerbol. collect our science and recover it. I've been thinking that the instant that I get real, rocket technology, that I want to shoot for Minimus and the moon as early as possible, as to limit the amount of time that I have to be using this painfully stupid technology right here. So, right here, I'm going to quick EVA. I'm going to collect data. Remove all data. Take data. Now board. Now that I'm in here, I can... the darn things are covering up that. I can crew report. And I can do the last mystery goo. As well as the fact that I forgot to... let's just take that while we're out here. Why not? Because why not? EVA report, because that gives us a bit of science. Now, finally, we can recover the vessel and get around 20, 30 science at best, maybe, to the point where we can actually get real technology. Oh, even better than I expected. 40 science. That gives us enough technology that we can plot our first missions to Minmus. So what I want is engineering, basic rocketry, general rocketry, I don't have enough stuff for survivability. Ooh. Looks like we just need around 10, 20 more science. So let's just quickly get in there and get going in terms of the science. Now that I actually have a real rocket engine and not just this garbage can full of explosives. I have a solid rocket booster. What I want to use is 3 of these here and an engine. No, I probably want to use the swivel so that I get some gimbaling in action in there. And I want to make some very primitive landing legs out of this. So basically just stick these out the sides. Then I want this to have a very large base as to not tip it over on landings. This is just going to be like a simple science grabber. And need to hook another one of those on. And a third one. And I just have to bend them ever so slightly downwards. And that is our very simple science rocket, except for the actual science. So let's just grab the 2 science experiments we have. This and the mystery goo. And we're ready for liftoff. I should also probably check my message box because I had just completed the 2 contracts. So that would be very, very useful. Mostly due to the fact that would give me a fair bit of money in extra science, which I didn't think of. I'm hoping that this career session that I actually get some interesting contracts. So I just like some of the rarer contracts, if you've ever seen them. They're the incredibly rare ones, such as the Grand Tour contract, which no one, ever gets. Okay, currently, I forgot to check my staging, so that is very terrible. So, why not just run the experiment right here? Log temperature, that's science, if nothing else. Check that thing. It's science, but not much. And check this. Nothing. Just nothing. Now recover, because we want, because we still want that 5 whole science points that we got from that. Like I said, the very, very, very start of the game, in my opinion, is the most of a grind. Because of because you just have to do this, and this, and this, and grab extra science, and wait until you get a real rocket engine, and a real landing leg, and a real fin. And there's a ton of improvising involved. So now, the first thing that I want to do is check my staging and swap editor. The reason for this is because it's always best to get science from everywhere you possibly can. So I'm even going to the spaceplane hangar and the runway for science, just because it's a bit easier to get science since I can just grab it right off the runway. If I'm able to get just a few more science, then I'll have all of the stuff required for a simple moon flyby or Minmus rocket. I'll show you exactly how I'm going to pull that one off soon. So the first thing, log temperature, log mystery goo, and get out on EVA and select him. EVA report, board, and our crew report. Crew report, and bam. Now recover vessel, and I should have the science required to build the most garbagey Minmus rocket that you've ever seen. That I've tested it before in a different save before I made the video, but I've nicknamed it the Dumpster 500 because of how much garbage is involved with its construction. So right off the bat, I want that, and I am ready to go to Minmus. Way too early. I'm just way. This is just ridiculous. This is just ridiculous that I'm going to Minmus this early. So, first thing I want to do is grab this, and grab a parachute, a drag chute just in case, we want, for these fuel tanks, we want 1, 2 of these. Then I want to set my radial size to 4 and put these all around here. Then I want to rotate them all to face inwards, like that. And then I want to attach them outwards slightly. You'll see what I'm talking about here. Now I want to take a swivel engine and attach it down there. And all of these little landing legs around the edge. The swivel engine is still a bit lower than the actual landing legs, but we can just clip it up in there so that it looks a bit nicer. And clip these down a bit so that we can have a fully functioning little lander with 2,500 meters per second in delta V on it. Next, we just want to add a simple detacher, just so to reduce the clipping and the stress on the game. We want to disable the shroud and start adding our secondary stage, which is going to be, I'm thinking of maybe 6 of these fuel tanks. But it would probably actually be better to do it like this, and then put those. Oh no, I've gone over my tonnage limit. That is terrible. That is terrible. So I've got them in this lander. Now I just need to reduce the mass for it as much as possible. I don't have fuel transfer yet, and I have, well, 122,000 bucks. Let's just leave the thing, and I want to see if I can get fuel transfer on the thing, because that's almost as good as having asparagus staging on the upper stage. It's just amazing. Oh, you're very expensive. You are very expensive. So let's go in here, see if we can get any contract. Escape the atmosphere and orbit Kerbin is what we need, because nobody in the face of Kerbin's nearly ready enough to give me, for orbit. So, with that, now that I'm thinking about the weight limits, I actually tested it in a science world. And even if I was testing it in normal world, everything would have been fully upgraded, or in a career world, everything would have been fully upgraded. So I'm thinking about making just a simple rocket that can go into orbit, and I just want to grab enough fuel. I only need enough stuff to get the Terrier engine and a slightly larger fuel tank, as well as something, an upgrade for the I want a bit of cash to upgrade the launch pad. So right off the bat, putting this little decoupler on, made our little capsule with all of our scientific equipments on it. Now attaching these is what I have to do next. That's 1, 2. Now if I put it on 4 times symmetry. Wait. I think that I can make an early game SSTO. Oh wow. This is just a little SSTO. This is amazing. So much for this little mechanism on the capsule. Just strap some parachutes to the side of it, and I have a fully functioning single stage 2 orbit. So much for you over there. And let's put you there. That's 3,305 meters per second. That should be more than enough to get into orbit. And we've got a simple SSTO. Other than the fact that it probably won't need some fins as to not flip out of control, but the fins take 100 meters per second off the delta V count, so who needs fins? So let's go to orbit, I guess, or at least to space using this little reusable craft. The nice thing about it being reusable is that I can actually save a bit of money, because the engines and fuel tanks aren't necessarily cheap in the early game. So let's turn on SIS, make sure that is enabled, and let's fire up the thruster. Right off the bat, we're ascending into the air. I was about to say ascending into space, but no, we're nowhere close to space yet. Because of this almost hideous aerodynamic profile, we want to ascend as steeply as possible. None of that fancy schmancy gravity turn stuff until we get to a semi-decent altitude. 15 kilometers, I'm thinking I should start the gravity turn. Just currently I want to cut my throttle a bit as to save efficiency, or save efficiency in terms of the aerodynamics, because going above a few Mach numbers is actually going to reduce my delta V, because I'm going to be burning so much fuel just keeping up with drag. So I just want to tip over ever so slightly, and bam. Oh no, I'm kind of tipping out of control. I had to kill my throttle. And I'm going to observe and see what my trajectory looks like. It actually isn't too bad. And right back to it, firing my thruster. And this is going to be my... I think this is actually starting to become a reusable space program, with all this little SSTO stuff everywhere. I'm right off, taking off, and that puts me above, and I want to go up there and get a pretty good, we want to actually get a pretty good orbit in order for this to actually count. But my only fear right now is that, oh wow, I just got a bunch of stuff completed. Look at that. I just have to go through here. Monies, 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 and sciences. Monies and sciences. Now let's maneuver ever so slightly forward. Actually, not slightly whatsoever, like 90 degrees forward. And let's start speeding up. Let's break a few speed records here. Well, doesn't look like it was an SSTO, but it definitely got some pretty good achievements from that. So let's where is the button? Crew report. Observe mystery goo. I can't get out right now because I haven't unlocked the ability to do an EVA on a trajectory, or while not on the surface of Kerbol, but I've got a fair bit of science for now, for where I am in the game. Pretty soon, hundreds of points will be a fair bit of science, but right now, I'm just descending into the atmosphere and trying not to burn up via aerobraking. A very, very, very slow aerobraking pass. And at least I'm below 2,000 meters per second now. Wait, spin, 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 spin. Spinning saves lives. Well, does it look like it was very reusable in the end? If I actually had made a full orbit, I probably could have brought it down to a very low aerobraking pass, and then that would have been much safer. But we are at a safe velocity to land now, and coming in for a safe landing. We are slowly sinking down towards the ocean. For some reason, I feel like I want to cut a parachute. because it's so slow. Okay, I just cut a parachute. And we are above the ocean, and Kerblunk. And oh look, all those science experiments had to burn off as well. At least we got to recover the majority of the vessel, and we made more money in contracts than we lost in parts burning up. Next time I'll probably use a real re-entry vehicle rather than just trying to drop through the atmosphere and hope I survive. Okay, here I am. 38 science, actually better than I expected. I should, with that amount of science, I only need a few more science points to get get the Terrier, which is one of the best engines in the game. Even in the very, very, very late game, you're still using the Terrier for everything. Even to get home from Jewel, I've used the Terrier on some of my test missions before. So let's make something. So now I'm going to make a very safe rocket using a heat shield. Speaking of very safe rockets, I'm still very angry that YouTube thinks that real civil engineers very, very, very strange floppy rocket that launches around corners is the best image for Kerbal Space Program YouTube. Sometimes I really question the decisions that YouTube's algorithms make. Well, anyway, here we are, just putting once again strapping someone onto the top of a tube of explosives and whipping them off into the deep depths of space. And we're ready to go, I guess. I'm just very, very excited since it's been so long since I've recorded a video, and that I've been able to make one with such how do you guys say it? Such recording quality, since I've gotten the new setup. So now I've gotten this rocket booster with a person on top of it, and liftoff. I should start picking up speed around now, which I am. I say the most obvious of things. And let's hope the nose doesn't burn off of it. One of the very interesting things about space travel is that delta V is not scalable. Looks like something burned off the side, aka my little thermometer, and this mystery goo container burned off the side because it was unprotected. So that's 9.0 science, and I can't EVA. That's very depressing. Then let's do a crew report. And that's about all the science that I can get. And let's go. Whoa. I was going really fast. Probably should have saved my science experiment for while I was up there, but I could probably just get that science while I was while coming home from Ninmus. So the first thing that I do instantly is to angle this so that relatively that little thing is behind the heat shield, as to not just burn it clean off. And there I am, re-entering the atmosphere at a ridiculous speed at the point where I will hit the ground in 20 seconds, or 14, 13. I just hope I go under sonic speeds fast enough. Oh, and that by jettisoning that, I was able to greatly increase my my drag, because the heat shield does apply a lot of drag, but when you detach it, its drag pushing up on you is helping you up, as well as the drag from a undeployed or as an unoccupied node, which is the bottom of this capsule after you eject the heat shield. So So that means that I actually, because it doesn't calculate drag through things, I just can actually double my drag, maybe even triple it, as to save myself from a very explosive death on the surface of Kerbol. And it isn't like I have the technology to even bail out right now because of my current situation. So here I am descending safely down to the surface of Kerbol, 100% explosion free. And I can actually see a tree over there. It won't actually be valuable until I actually get like surface sampling tech, and another tree over there won't be valuable until I get like surface sampling tech. So I'm safely descending down to the surface of Kerbol. Something that I always notice when I'm traveling at 4 times speed, I'm always like, eek, I'm moving way too fast, and I'm gonna hit the surface, and I try to throttle up, and then because I forget that I'm using time warp, or physical time warp, so I don't realize that that I'm falling at 6 meters per second, but it looks like I'm falling at 24 meters per second, I think it is. So I freak out. So here we are with 48 science, which is more than enough to buy the Terrier, which is the next big advancement in space technology that I need to get to Minmus. So I am going into the VAB to build my Minmus rocket. So I think here should be the end of our video. So bye, see you for next video. Boop.